And now on to the main event. So today, Dr. Mark Mannis will introduce us to the new 67,000 square foot Ernest E. Tschannen Eye Institute, which broke ground in June 2020 and is expected to be completed this year on the UCD Sacramento campus. This impressive institute will include cutting-edge patient care, inspired educational programs for tomorrow's healthcare leaders, and a pioneering research environment that will generate new discoveries in medicine, science, and healthcare, such as developing cures for blinding eye diseases. With all that introduction said, I'll now ask Dr. Mannis to go ahead and take it away for us.
Thank you so much, Katie. And thank you to the leadership of the Renaissance Society for inviting me to be with you here this afternoon. It's wonderful to see over 70 people on a beautiful sunny Friday afternoon taking advantage of this program, and I'm very complimented that you chose to spend your time with me. I'm excited to tell you about the new Eye Center in Sacramento, because this, I think, is going to put our city on the national map as a destination for advanced eye care in the United States. I came to Sacramento 4 decades ago, right after my training. And in that time, there have been many new wonderful additions, not the least of which is the beautiful Crocker Museum, now a destination for our neighbors in San Francisco, the Mannis Museum on the Davis campus, and of course, the wonderful Mondavi Center, which is a regional gem and really has provided us with so much wonderful music and theater. Among those improvements and additions to our city has been the growth of the health system, not just UC Davis, but the Sutter system and the Mercy system and the Kaiser system as well. UC Davis Health, which of course I represent, is the only major academic health system in our region. And over the years, like the city with its wonderful new additions, UC Davis Health has grown to really provide a cutting-edge care for the most serious problems that afflict our patient population in our area. And so it's been a great privilege to work in this growth environment. And part of that has, of course, been the growth of the eye department. I should tell you, for many of you probably know this, that Sacramento has a long history of advanced eye care. Sacramento, of course, as a railroad town, was a center in which there was a huge amount of ocular trauma, particularly among the railroad workers. In addition, with the floods in the 1850s, there was a great deal of eye infection. And so the future of eye care began very early in the history of our city. Its first full-time ophthalmologist came here, William Ellery Briggs, in the 1920s. And he became a well-known European-trained ophthalmologist who performed many firsts in our field, including, for example, the first use of a magnet to remove intraocular foreign bodies. So we have a city that is steeped in the history of eye care. And with the new additions to the city that I mentioned before, the most recent is, and soon will be, the Ernest E. Tschannen Eye Institute. The department, let me tell you first a little bit about the Department of Ophthalmology, because it's not really just the building that we're talking about, but what happens in that building, the people, the programs. Our department was founded in 1969. We've just passed our 50th birthday. We currently have 20 full-time clinical ophthalmologists on the faculty, 14 full-time vision scientists, and we see roughly 52,000 patients per year. So it's a very busy department. The catchment area that we serve is course, the entire Sacramento region, all the way to the Oregon border, 3 hours south to Fresno, and actually including Reno and Carson City in Nevada. More recently, we have patients coming to us because of our specialized expertise from the Bay Area, patients who normally would have gone to UC San Francisco or Stanford now come to Davis because of unique capabilities which we have here in Sacramento. In the course of a short lecture, it's impossible to go through the entire history of our department, but just a few reminders that the UC Davis School of Medicine was founded in 1966. The Department of Ophthalmology was the first full-time department, which began in 1969. And over the years, the faculty has grown, both on the clinical side and the basic science side, to provide cutting-edge visual investigation, as well as top-notch clinical care. Our first chairman was someone who may be known to many of you, Dr. Byron Demarest. Byron Demarest was, until he passed away, in private practice. He was a pediatric ophthalmologist, and he became the first chair of our department, bringing in members of the private community to teach our trainees and to provide indigent care for what at the time was Sacramento County Hospital. Dr. Demarest realized that a truly academic department needed a full-time academic leader, and he therefore recruited Dr. Gerald Portney, who was a nationally recognized expert in glaucoma, who came to become the first full-time academic chair and began building a department here at Davis. Dr. Portney unfortunately died very early after taking on the chairmanship, and he was succeeded by Dr. John Keltner, who is a neuro-ophthalmologist and who for the next 23 years would lead the department to national prominence. And then it was my honor to take over the department in 2012 with the idea that we would build a new eye center in Sacramento. Our department is made up of 20 faculty representing all the ophthalmic subspecialties. In addition, we have 11 full-time vision scientists who work in the laboratory and also in clinical investigation, looking at new treatments for disabling eye disease. Here you can see some of our subspecialists. We have 2 pediatric ophthalmologists, 3 comprehensive ophthalmologists who do primarily cataract surgery, ophthalmic plastic and orbital specialists, specialists in the cornea and external disease. That's my field. I'm a corneal transplant surgeon. A neuro-ophthalmologist who deals with the diseases of the eye that are related to the central nervous system. 3 specialists in glaucoma, one of the most common causes of blinding eye disease in this country, and 6 specialists in the area of retina, which includes all of the diseases of the back of the eye, such as diabetes and vascular disease and inherited diseases of the eye, which likewise cause tremendous havoc among our elderly population. Our vision scientists cover a broad range, from pharmacology to mathematical modeling. We have a close relationship with the School of Veterinary Medicine, and 4 of our faculty basic scientists are veterinary ophthalmologists. And we have individuals who specialize in every facet of ocular research. So in addition to the full-time faculty and the full-time basic scientists, we also solicit volunteer clinical faculty from the community. And these are practicing ophthalmologists throughout Sacramento and Stockton and even Redding, who have joined our volunteer faculty to help provide care and to train our residents. Our primary goal of the department, of course, is clinical care. And unlike what often occurs in the private community of ophthalmology and optometry, most of what we deal with is advanced specialty care. Patients who are referred in to our department for problems that really can't be managed by the general ophthalmologist. And this ranges from medical care to advanced surgical care. The second area is research. And this is both basic research, looking at mechanisms of disease and ways in which we can understand why disease occurs and what we can do about it. So, for example, troubling diseases like macular degeneration, the cause of which we don't really know. We have a fleet of ophthalmologists who are looking at macular degenerative problems of many kinds, both macular degeneration of the elderly as well as inherited diseases of the retina. And I'll tell you more about that a little bit later, to try and parse out the causes of these problems with the idea of finding better treatments and perhaps even cures. In addition to performing the research, we train our residents as researchers, and every year we have an annual research day, which parenthetically is open to the public. And each of our residents and fellows describe what they've done, and these are often projects which become later funded by industry or the government for us to build on in terms of finding new ways of treating eye disease. So there's clinical care, there's research, and then of course, we are teachers. We train the next generation of practitioners and scientists. We currently train 12 residents at a time, soon to be 16. These individuals come to us part-time during their internship year after medical school, and then full-time for 3 years. And during the time that they're here with us, they learn every facet of medical and surgical ophthalmology, and they become part of the frontline care team here at UC Davis. In addition to the residents, we also train fellows. Fellows have completed their medical school, their internship, and their residency in ophthalmology, and they are specializing in a sub-area of our field. So we have fellows who are training in vitreoretinal surgery, in glaucoma, and in cornea. Our graduates really end up all over the country. You can see this map of North and South America, and you can see that our graduates are all over the United States, Central America, and South America. Were I to include the world map, we would see that we have graduates in Israel and Japan, in Eastern Europe, virtually all over the world. About 60% of our graduates pursue subspecialty training. They go on after residency to become even more subspecialized. And the other 38% become comprehensive ophthalmologists. Ophthalmology is considered a surgical subspecialty. And so we have a very well-developed surgical program. Our residents are all trained in the laboratory prior to going into the operating room. And even in the operating room, they are mentored very closely by experienced faculty who've had years of training as surgeons and as teachers of surgery. Part of our mission, in addition to patient care, research, education, is to provide a service both to our local community and globally. And so our department has significant global outreach. Here you can see our residents volunteering in San Blas, Mexico, providing gratis surgery to a poor community that would never have access to this kind of care. Here you can see members of our residency with our faculty in Myanmar and in Zambia. And in the upper right, you can see one of our residents in Mongolia. Many of our faculty participate in Orbis International. Orbis is the Flying Eye Hospital. It's an MD-11 jet, which is outfit as a teaching class, an operating room, recovery room, and training area, which flies around the world with experts, many of whom are from Davis. And we transfer skills to the local ophthalmologists. So the plane, for example, will go to El Salvador. As we went a couple of years ago, we fly there, we match up with a local ophthalmologist, spend a week operating with that ophthalmologist, teaching him skills that then remain with him or her after we leave. So it's very important for us to train our residents and fellows that it's very important to donate their time to situations where care is not as easily available as it is here in this amazing country that we live in. In 2015, Ernest E. Tschannen, who is a Swiss immigrant to the United States, who first came to the United States to Minneapolis as an engineer, and then began a career in real estate. Ernest was a patient of ours who was operated on by Dr. Michelle Lim, who you see standing here to Ernest's right on the left of your screen. Dr. Lim is vice chair of our department and medical director, and is a renowned specialist in glaucoma. Michelle did surgery on Ernest and saved his eyes from losing vision. In gratitude for that, Ernest donated in 2015 $36 million to establish an eye center that would make Sacramento one of the major ophthalmic centers in the United States. And that began the concept of the Ernest E. Tschannen Eye Institute. In building the Eye Institute, we called upon physicians to find out what would be the components of an eye institute that made doctors want to practice there. We called upon technicians to find out how patient flow and patient care could be maximized. We called on administrators to find out how to make this place run smoothly. And finally, and most importantly, we called on vision patients, patients with vision compromise, to find out what kind of place would be the place they would want to receive their eye care. So we spoke with individuals with average eyes. We spoke with individuals with cataracts. Just take a sip of water. I'm losing my voice. We spoke with patients who were afflicted with glaucoma, and you can see in these photographs their view of the same room. And we spoke with patients with macular degeneration. And all of these patients gave us a wonderful kaleidoscope of how we should put together an eye center that would be patient-centric. And so we designed the eye center through empathy, considering who our clientele were. The eye center began construction, and the topping off ceremony, the final girder of the superstructure, was placed in November of 2020. Since that time, as you can see, the building has risen out of the ground, and we will see our first patients at the new eye center on the 5th of December this year. Really rapid development. Here you can see the Eye Center as it looked about 6 weeks ago. Now it's even closer to being finished. And I can tell you, having walked through it yesterday with some patients, that there is really no eye care facility like this in Northern California. And it will become, without any question, a major center for vision care for our region. The Eye Center is located adjacent to the Ellison Ambulatory Care Center on the Midtown campus of the UC Davis Health System, adjacent to the UC Davis Hospital. The Eye Center is close to 80,000 square feet, 4 stories. Here you can see the architect's rendition of the Eye Center. It will be adjacent to the other outpatient services of the UC Davis Health System and will consist of 4 stories. On the first floor, there will be pediatric ophthalmology, optometry and vision services, and each of the specialties of ophthalmology: glaucoma, retina, neuro-ophthalmology, comprehensive ophthalmology, cornea and external disease, will all have specialized clinics on the first floor. The second floor of the building will have refractive surgery for laser vision care, as well as oculoplastic surgery for specialized plastic surgery related to eye disease. And in addition, on the second floor, we will house what's called CORT, the Center for Ocular Regenerative Therapy. CORT will be a center for the investigation of gene therapy for diseases like macular degeneration, central retinal vascular occlusions, retinitis pigmentosa, a whole variety of retinal degenerations, all of which are genetically inherited. Under the leadership of Dr. Paul Sieving, the former director of the National Eye Institute in Bethesda, Maryland, this center will be unique in the nation to look at new ways of using gene therapy to cure what until now has been unremitting blinding eye disease. Dr. Sieving is one of America's most celebrated ophthalmologists. He ran the National Eye Institute in Bethesda for 15 years and chose UC Davis for his next step in his career because of the unique combination of the Department of Ophthalmology, the School of Veterinary Medicine, the Northern California Primate Center, which is a major hub for ophthalmic research, and of course, the remarkable variety of talents on the Davis campus. The 4th floor of the building will be a teaching center where we have auditoriums and conference rooms for both our residents, for community ophthalmologists, for public education events, as well as our faculty offices, where faculty conduct their academic lives in teaching and research. Here you can see some renditions of the building. I can tell you that I was in the building yesterday with some patients, and it really does look exactly like this. It's quite beautiful, and will be a place where patients will be encouraged when they enter, and where physicians will be inspired to give great care. Here you can see the waiting areas, which are designed to be warm and friendly for patients who come concerned about their vision loss. And here you can see faculty offices on the 4th floor. The whole building is designed with the patient in mind for easy navigation and to make the experience of getting care for vision loss one that's encouraging and uplifting. When we put the concept of the Eye Institute together, there were many considerations. We wanted it to be, first and foremost, a wonderful place for patients to come to. Secondly, we wanted it to be a think tank for the best minds in ophthalmology to sort out the questions that would help us lead to new cures for blinding eye disease. You know, if you survey the American public about what things are of greatest concern to them and which health issues are of greatest concern, the three things that always come to the top are cancer, heart disease, and blindness. And if you further look at the statistics, blindness always rises to the top. So we know that the fear of vision loss, the fear of losing one's independence in later years is of primary concern to our patient population. And the Eye Center was designed with that in mind. So I wrote this quote because I think it really describes quite succinctly what we are trying to do at the UC Davis Eye Center. We want the UC Davis Eye Center to be a place of medical miracles, where the vision impaired come and are given hope for sight restoration through advanced technology and caring physicians. We envision the Eye Center as a place that radiates comfort and encouragement for patients as they enter and provides them with a new and brilliant outlook on the world as they leave. So what I've tried to do in a short time, and I think I'm ending a little bit early, but I've tried to provide you with an overview of what I think is going to be one of the most significant institutional contributions to our wonderful city in a very long time. And I hope that all of you will take advantage of what we have to offer. We certainly would love to have your input and suggestions as to how we can make the Eye Center, the Tschannen Eye Institute, the very best place for people to turn to when vision care is needed. I would also mention that we do put out a magazine twice a year called Envision. The most recent issue just came out. It concerns ophthalmic research during the time of the pandemic. And the reason why we did this was that perhaps the greatest vision researcher of all time, Isaac Newton, made his greatest discoveries during a pandemic, during the plague in London. And so this particular issue of the magazine will give you an idea of what kinds of research are going on in many varieties, many areas of vision care. So we have people who are interested in corneal disease and neuro-ophthalmology and glaucoma, in retinal disease. And all of these are concurrent here at the Eye Center. So we urge you to take advantage of the talent we have here, and we hope that the advent of the new building will allow you to benefit from what we have to offer. So once again, I'd like to thank the members of the Renaissance Society. I'm new to the Renaissance Society, but I've been following the programming for some months, and it's a fascinating group of speakers and opportunities, and I'm truly delighted and honored to be invited. And so I'm very happy to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mannis. That was very, very interesting. The new building and the expanded services and research that it offers seem fascinating. You mentioned the new procedures, techniques, etc. And we actually have a few questions along those lines. So one question we have, are there any new treatments for macular degeneration? I guess the questioner said that he or she has gone through the current treatments, including the eye injections, and things don't seem to be working perhaps as well as they would like them to. So are there new things as to macular degeneration?
There are certainly a number of new treatments for macular degeneration. One of the most exciting, although it's not yet through clinical trials, is one of the trials being headed here at UC Davis. It's called the TRUST, T-R-U-S-T study. And this is a study in which a patient, bone marrow cells are taken from a patient, his own bone marrow cells. And those cells are then injected underneath the retina. And bone marrow cells are what we call pluripotential. They can become other kinds of cells in the body. And what Dr. Susanna Park, who is chief of our retina service, has found is that these bone marrow cells, when injected underneath the retina, have the capability of transforming into functional retinal cells. And so this means that for certain kinds of diseases, like macular degeneration, and like a variety of other macular problems that result from vascular compromise, that bone marrow cells could be used to replace the cells that are destroyed in these degenerative processes. Other kinds of diseases like retinitis pigmentosa, which is a rare but devastating blinding disease, might also be treated by using bone marrow cells. This is just one of a number of different approaches to macular degeneration, which go beyond what we currently have, which really is attempting to stave off further damage by giving the intraocular injections that we currently give. So the answer, the short answer is, yes, there are a variety of new approaches to macular degeneration, one of which, actually more than one of which, but one of which right now is being done right here at UC Davis.
Well, I want to share with you a comment from one of the attendees, and I'll just read it. The comment is, as a former patient of yours, my corneal transplant is still doing great after about 15 years. So I just want to pass that on so you can enjoy the success of that individual as well as others. Another question from an attendee. The person says that he or she has central retinal artery occlusion. Is this a condition that will be treatable or worked on at the New Eye Institute?
The answer is, first, central retinal artery occlusion is a very, very devastating problem. And like any situation in which the blood supply is cut off to tissues, human tissues don't, unlike many other animal tissues, human tissues don't spontaneously regenerate. So up until now, there really is no cure for central retinal artery occlusion. But we do have individuals, particularly folks on the Davis campus, who are investigating how to reconnect the cells that have been disconnected by these kinds of vascular injuries. So the answer is, yes, it's being studied. That's the good news. The bad news is it's not yet clinically available.
Okay. Another question, and I'm just going to share it with you. I'm not familiar with this particular eye disease, something called NAION. So the question is that attendee said that it runs in his or her family. They now have partial blindness. Is that condition being studied at the Eye Institute too? And I would ask, as someone who is, I think we've all heard of glaucoma and macular degeneration and cataracts. I am not familiar with that disease. Perhaps you could share a little bit of what it is, and then of course respond to options at the Eye Institute.
So NAION is a disorder. The letters stand for non-arteritic ischemic optic neuropathy. Well, it's a mouthful. And it is basically a disorder of the optic nerve, which is the coaxial cable that leads from the retina back to the visual cortex in the brain. That optic nerve can become starved from blood. There are a variety of different reasons. One reason is that there's inflammation of the arteries, and that's associated with a disease called temporal arteritis or giant cell arteritis. And then there's lack of blood flow to the optic nerve without inflammation. That's what NAION is. This is another of those diseases that is difficult because the precise cause is not understood. And the result of the lack of blood flow produces lasting damage on the nerve cells. As I mentioned, however, there are folks, particularly on our Davis campus, in our basic science labs on the Davis campus, who are looking at how to reconnect cells that have been damaged in this fashion or by glaucoma. So again, the answer is yes, people are working on it. That's the good news. The bad news is it's not yet clinically available to patients.
Thank you. There are several questions relating to referrals. So for example, one question is if someone currently has glaucoma, do they need a referral to go to the med center? Related to that is, I think early on you mentioned that many of the situations or diseases handled at the med center are beyond the scope of general ophthalmologist, or if that's the right term. So how does one get a referral to the med center? How does one know when one needs a referral to the med center?
Well, first let me say that we have a wonderful ophthalmic community in Sacramento, and I by no means want to imply in any way that our general practitioners of ophthalmology are not prepared to take care of most general eye problems. The more serious ones, they refer to our department, but we have a great ophthalmic community. In terms of the mechanisms of being referred, usually a referral requires a referral from the primary care. It really largely depends on, the silly things like what your insurance is and the hoops that we all have to jump through in American medicine for a patient to see a doctor. But by and large, UC Davis is open to the entire community. There may be some referral hoops that one needs to jump through, but our department welcomes all referrals.
So I think a couple times in talking about eye disease, you use the adjective devastating, in terms of the effect of partial or complete blindness. So a few, and I'm certainly not an expert, as I understand it, a few diseases irrevocably lead to blindness, that there is no treatment, etc. Does the current ophthalmology department or the new Eye Institute offer any resources in terms of counseling or connection to the blind or low vision community, or things like occupational therapy, learning how to do day-to-day tasks as one loses one's vision?
Yeah, the Eye Center per se on location does not. However, I have been and currently a member of the board of directors of the Sacramento Society for the Blind, which is a fantastic asset in our community. And we have a very close relationship with the Sacramento Society. We probably send more patients to the society than any other institution. And I think that yeah, the Society for the Blind is not well enough publicized in the community, but really offers occupational therapy, wonderful counseling services, news reading, a whole variety, and of course, a store with devices for visual aids. The society really offers every level of care for the visually impaired, for every level of visual impairment. And we work very closely with the society in that regard.
Thank you. Another question, it relates to cataract surgery. The person's question was, health insurance policies seem to, I'm paraphrasing it now, erect barriers as opposed to be useful when it comes to, well, maybe in terms of everything, but the questioner was asking about cataract surgery, that the comment was that cataracts, as you know, and as anyone who has had them knows, cataracts can often be debilitating, and yet the sight has to be fairly bad to qualify for coverage. Do you have any comments about that?
Well, this is a very timely and problematic issue right now, because one of the largest insurance companies has just made the move to require pre-authorization by the insurance company for cataract surgery. And what this means is that patients who are troubled with cataracts often have to wait until an insurance bureaucrat makes a decision as to whether or not the company wants to spend its money to restore that individual's vision. This is a very negative development, and the American Academy of Ophthalmology, the American Association of Cataract and Refractive Surgery, the CMA, and the American Medical Association are all working in concert to try to get this reversed. Cataract is obviously the most common cause of visual dysfunction in the elderly, and it's not a matter of imperfect vision. If one cannot see, obviously, if an elderly person doesn't see well, the likelihood of a fall is much greater, the loss of independence, the inability to read, all these things become major factors in quality of life. And so we want to make sure that cataract surgery is accessible to the public without the intervention of bureaucrats who are primarily trying to save money for the insurance companies. So this is a very timely and hotly debated problem at the moment.
So another question, and I apologize in advance if I mispronounce this, but please remember I have no medical background, the question is whether epiretinal membrane surgery is done currently or will be done at the Eye Institute. And maybe you could also say briefly what that is.
That's just what I was going to do.
Thank you.
The retina is, as you know, like the film in the camera. It is a very delicate layer that lines the inside of the eye and is basically the photoreceptive part of the eye. So as you're looking at the screen, when light comes in through your pupil, is focused by the cornea and the lens, goes to the pupil and impinges on the retina. It's that photosensitive retina that sends electrical pulses to your brain and allows you to see. The central part of that retina is called the macula. And the macula is what is responsible for the vast majority of the detailed vision that you have. In the epiretinal membrane, a small bit of tissue grows over the central part of the retina. The cause of this is not clear. It's probably inflammatory. It may be inherited. But as this little membrane grows over the central part of the retina, vision becomes impaired. Over the last 2 to 3 decades, epiretinal membrane surgery has become very sophisticated. And our retinal surgeons here at Davis have been performing epiretinal membrane surgery now for at least the last 2 decades. It's highly sophisticated, extremely delicate, and generally very successful. So the answer to the question is, yes, epiretinal membrane surgery is currently being performed. The rate of success is very high, and I believe that our surgeons are quite skilled at what they do.
So another question, and let me say, based on the number of questions I see here about referrals, your presentation may result in your department getting inundated with new requests for patients.
We're always happy to
I
see.
think we all appreciate it.
Yeah.
Another question is, you had mentioned the service area, as it were, being Northern California. Do you accept referrals or patients from outside of the area and even outside California?
Yeah, we have a fairly large number of patients from Western Nevada and from Southern Oregon as well. We, believe it or not, even have a few patients who come from Hawaii, but most of our patients are in Northern California.
So there's a follow-up question about the this is epithelial membrane surgery, which, okay, is saying what percentage of the population have epithelial membrane surgery? And is there any other reason that any other cause for this pulling away from the retina or the macula?
Okay, well, it's a little bit of a confusing question. I don't really have statistic. Epiretinal membrane surgery is not super common, but obviously the variety of retinal diseases which involve the macula is very substantial. And they can be inherited diseases or traumatic diseases or inflammatory diseases that are acquired. And each of these has its own prognosis and its own specific medical or surgical therapy. So the answer to that question is a little bit diffuse because the question is very broad. But I would say that the treatment of epiretinal membrane or macular disease or epiretinal membrane disease really largely depends on the cause. One of the things that I didn't mention in my presentation is that UC Davis continues to be a Class 1 trauma center. So virtually all the trauma in our region and almost all of the eye trauma comes to UC Davis. So our doctors are busy almost every night of the week in the operating room, taking care of trauma from car accidents to shootings to fires, and many of the things that occur in our city involve the eye. And we are a major trauma service as well.
Another question is there any treatment for people whose eyes do not track together?
Yes, indeed. We have 2 people who specialize in this. Dr. Allison Liu is our neuro-ophthalmologist, and she deals with central nervous system control of ocular movements. And we have two ophthalmologists who deal with what's called adult strabismus, which is the misalignment of the muscles of the eye. And they can determine the cause of this, and there are actually surgical procedures that can realign the eyes so that patients' eyes track together and don't have double vision.
Another question, will the Eye Center do any work with ocular prostheses?
It depends on what you mean by ocular prostheses. If you mean cosmetic prostheses for people who have lost an eye, we do not have an in-house ocularist. An ocularist is someone who makes cosmetic prostheses. We have two ocularists in Sacramento, and we send all of our patients who need cosmetic prostheses out to them. There are other kinds of ocular prostheses. There's a corneal prosthetic, which is an artificial cornea, which is used in patients who are unable to accept a corneal transplant. And there are retinal prostheses, which are small chips which are implanted in the retina to help simulate normal vision. Those kinds of prostheses will be available and are available at the Eye Center. Cosmetic prostheses we send out.
Thank you. Does the center, either the current ophthalmology department or the center when it opens, offer educational services for lifestyle changes to help minimize or avoid blindness and many of the things that lead to it?
You know, in general, I must say we have not done that. That function has largely been taken over by the Society for the Blind, but that's usually in the context of people who have already lost their vision. We do not have a program currently that is basically a program in maximizing vision health, but it's a very good idea and one that we would certainly be willing to take on.
So here's one of the questions is there any routine surgery that is currently being done or will be done at the Eye Institute?
Well,
I don't know what routine is though.
our most common surgery, of course, is cataract surgery. And we do several dozen cataracts a week here at the Eye Center, probably 2 to 3 dozen a week at least. And cataract surgery, of course, is highly successful. It's really a miraculous procedure, which takes under a half hour to undergo. It's done under local anesthesia as an outpatient, and is really a transformative procedure for both patient and physician, for that matter. So that's probably the most common procedure that we perform. We also perform on a weekly basis glaucoma surgery in both adults and in infants. We have Dr. James Brandt, who is chief of our glaucoma surgery unit, who is an international specialist in pediatric glaucoma, which is a rare but devastating problem. We have 2 pediatric ophthalmologists who specialize in children and in surgery in children with misaligned eyes. And of course, myself and my partner, Dr. Jennifer Lee, do the vast majority of corneal transplants in our region. And the eye bank in Sacramento is chaired by Dr. Lee and myself, so that we also have a wonderful eye bank in Sacramento, which provides tissue not just to the university, but to many of the private practitioners in town, as well as to Stockton, other places in Northern California, Reno, and around the country.
So obviously you've created a lot of interest. A lot of people have posted comments thanking you for what you've done and the presentation today. And the last question, which I'm going to pose is, will there be an open house at the Institute?
There will be an open house. There will, and we hope to, we want to get the building functional. So it'll probably be in the late fall, early winter, and we'll invite the public to come and see the Institute, meet our physicians and our scientists, and we hope that it will open doors to new vision for the public of Sacramento.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to turn it back over to our MC.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Mannis. You are just an extreme well of information. Thank you for giving so much for us. And you also essentially gave us a visual tour of that amazing facility that we now get to play host to. That's wonderful. You really painted a picture for us. So thank you for that.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Good. Well, as a small thank you gift, we would like to offer you an honorary membership in the Renaissance Society. And we'll also be making a donation in your name to the Seth Nelson Student Emergency Grant Fund.
That's lovely. Thank you so much.
And now all our audience members out there, please remember that today's presentation was recorded. You can view it or find it to share it with a friend in 2 different ways: on the Forum YouTube channel or on the Renaissance Society website under recordings. Once more, we want all of you to attend the annual Renaissance Society meeting. It'll be Monday, May 9th from 1 to 2 p.m. over Zoom. You'll get a Zoom link invite in your weekly update and constant contact messages, so keep your eyes peeled for that. At the meeting, you'll be able to meet the 2022 Sac State recipients of the Inclusion Award and Student Scholarship and Diversity Award. And you'll hear an update from our board on how the fall semester is shaping up. It's exciting stuff. So join us there. And we also want all of you to vote for the Renaissance Society officers before May 6th. We need 1/3 of our membership to get involved here and cast your vote for the upcoming 2022-2023 year. Most voting will be done electronically, and you should have received a constant contact message with instructions on April 18th. Print ballots will only be sent to members without emails on file for us, those who don't receive constant contact, or if members share an email with others. You can see the slate of officers you'll be voting on in the May Recorder newsletter, and polls close on May 6th. And no next week slide today. Thank you all for always being such an enthusiastic audience with great questions, and for joining us today with Dr. Mannis. From all of us behind the scenes of the Renaissance Society, please enjoy your summer, soak in that sunshine, and we'll see you this fall.